Hey, Mark here. I have a fun giveaway for you. I have 5 digital copies of the 2023 film Vindicta, and I'd love to give them to you. So if you'd like a copy, just message me and be like, hey, Mark, I would like a copy of Vindicta. I want to watch Sean Astin hunt a serial killer. Sounds fun. All right, so starring Elena Kampouris, Jeremy Piven, and Sean Astin, Vindicta is on digital now. When a city is terrorized by a sadistic serial killer, a seasoned detective and a newly recruited paramedic are forced into a deadly game of vengeance, where the key to stopping the bloodshed lies in unlocking the truth of their own haunted pasts. Vindicta. Get it from the Microsoft Store, rated R, from Paramount Pictures. Hello and welcome to Movies, Films, and Flicks. I am Mark Hoffmeyer, and joining me is a very tired John Leavengood.
I'm not too tired. I think we got a chance to maybe pull off a little miracle here tonight.
So if you're listening at home, this is actually the 15th time we've recorded this episode. And whenever we're done, Herb Brooks just goes, Kurt Russell as Herb Brooks, which is really odd, looks at us and goes, again.
Again, right? Again.
And then... But like right now, though, we're at that point where, the assistant coach is kind of like, a Craig Patrick, Noah Emmerich as Craig Patrick, not Craig Patrick as Noah Emmerich. That'd be interesting. But he's starting to do the thing like, am I really going to blow this whistle? Am I really going to blow it?
He does the delayed blow.
Yeah. Yeah. So we started that around the 13th time. So John, I really liked 7 and 9, but I think this we're going to hit it. We're going to hit the stride. Hey, John, what team do you play for?
Dude, I play for Movies, Films, and Flicks.
Yes! I just read there's a really great making of oral history from the Hockey News about Miracle. And the player who had to deliver that line, they made him skate on his own because the shot was a close-up of him, and they wanted him to be absolutely exhausted when he said the line. So he was skating by himself back and forth. They actually did the Herbs that night. They made all the players do that until they were exhausted, and people are actually puking and falling. But the other actors saw this actor having to skate by himself to get extra tired, and all the other actors started skating with him. So, all the actors came back on the ice and skated with another actor playing a member of the 1980 American hockey team, and they got tired with him. So when he delivered the line, I play for the USA, all the other people were with him.
Yeah,
that's how cool. Tight this unit became. Thousands of people tried out, and then they narrowed it down, and then Gavin O'Connor, he did Warrior and Way Back. This dude knows sports movies, but he wanted specifically hockey players that he could teach how to act, not actors. He didn't want this to be Mystery Alaska, is what he said. It's a fun movie, but every time you see his skates, you pan up and it's a stunt double. He said they had very few stunts. The actors were on the ice. Everyone had to give it 110%. They said they shot so much film that Disney's never shot that much film before. And it's just, this movie's great, John. I love Miracle. It's a good flick.
It's a really sweet, not fully wholesome, but still wholesome, and it feels very honest. It feels very grounded and honest, and there are a lot of places where, as people who sit around and wax poetic or criticize or dissect movies all the time, I can see a lot of places where a filmmaker could have taken more liberty to romanticize, exaggerate, rhapsodize, inject yet additional emotion where they just didn't, and they kept it more. Yep. And I think the reason is that usually when you do that, it's about individual trials, and the few individual trials that were highlighted were individual trials that were more like team trials, a case study of a team trial. And it's interesting when that happens, so when people are getting cut and we start with 26 people and we cut it down to 20, the first 5 people who get cut, you never know who they are. This movie does not even acknowledge that happens, other than you're crossing off names of people that we have not connected with on the screen. It's only the last cut, because the last cut is the person who spent the most time with the team, and that's the one that makes sense to tell with the flavor of this movie, right? But then we learn about the character who lost his mother, and who was having difficulty with his father. And it's more about getting into his head and getting him out of his own head than it is about diving deeply and seeing that struggle, which I think most movies take advantage of, not in a bad way, right, as a character study. But this character is the team and the coach.
Mm-hmm.
And they don't even make adversary of Russia. This
No.
is the Rocky IV of hockey movies, and yet Russia is not a villain in this.
No, it's
right.
They're just great. Russia is just an amazing hockey team that has won 42 in a row. And I went through the list of gold winners, like before and after this, and it's pretty crazy. So let's see. Let me go back. I had it pulled up. So, all right. So 60 and 64, Soviet Union. 68, Soviet Union. 72, Soviet Union. 76, Soviet Union. 80, America, United States. 84, Soviet Union. 88, Soviet Union. And so no wonder people called this a miracle, because the United States, the last time they won was 1960. And this Russian team was like the dream team. Like, this would have been like if Greece beat the dream team in the 90s. Like, that crazy, right? Like it's, I mean, they actually have a pretty good basketball team, but yeah, and they did win the Euros. But yeah, like the Russians aren't the villains. There's even a documentary, a 30 for 30, about what happened to the Russian players after this and what happened with the coach and the other players. Like their care was taken to not villainize them. There's no evil parents. There's no girlfriends. There's one nice dad. But yeah, this is pretty much about Kurt Russell and Herb Brooks. I mean, this is the story of Herb Brooks and how he took this team. And I figured you love this movie because he keeps talking about how legs are the wolves. You got to feed them. And I know you love your leg days, John.
That's right.
But no, like, you know what's kind of crazy is what I love about this movie is it has an 82% Tomato Meter score, 7.7 IMDb score. I mean,
very high.
Yeah, very
IMDb
high.
is unforgiving.
Yeah, and you know, like when you can clear that on IMDb, is it 7.7 or 7.4? That's still really high.
That's high.
And it made 65 million in the States, because this isn't a movie that's going to play well in Europe or Eastern Europe. You know, this is a movie that's going to transcend. So 65 million domestically. But it makes me so happy that this movie did well with critics, audiences, and the box office, because there's not much real drama. We know who's going to win. There's no sex. There's no major violence other than hockey fights. There's no romantic, like there's no, one of the players doesn't have Rachel McAdams as a girlfriend in this movie. There's no abusive dads. This isn't Varsity Blues. But yet it goes on to make 65 mil. And that's a testament to how good it is as a film.
It's an interesting approach too, right? Because if there's an antagonist, the antagonist is also the person you're rooting for the most. Because in a way it's coach versus assistant coach and committee and team doctor. He even says, "I'm not your friend. You want that? That's your assistant coach and doc," right? He's there to rile them up. He's here to get them out of their own heads. He's also not adversarial, but we see his conflict with his wife. We see him kind of, I don't know if it's making himself suffer, but he's so focused that he's disconnecting from his own life. But I think that would be the normal Olympic obsession, right? But again, there's so much sacrifice that goes into this. So he's adversarial to himself, his wife, his colleagues, and in a way is more in the beginning than in the end. It's like a continuously sliding scale. His team. He's more antagonist than Russia.
Yeah. Yeah. And remember when they're in the car and the doctor tells Noah Emmerich, well, maybe he's trying to bond them. They hate him so much that they bond. Right. And then I just want to say there's two amazing acting moments in this movie. It's when the doctor says that and then Noah Emmerich goes, Like it's very downplayed. He doesn't go, huh? Like once it settles, it takes a little while to settle in with him. And then he goes, that's a good point. And I think Kurt Russell's Oscar moment in this movie is when, after they've defeated the Soviet Union, the look between the two coaches, the way that Kurt Russell reacts to that coach, it's not boisterous. It's not smug. It's not, it's not, it's like, if I was the opposing coach, I don't even think I could be mad at Herb Brooks in that moment because of the way Kurt Russell plays it. Cause it's not, aw, gee, shucks. It's like, it's a perfect moment. I think this movie is very much a movie of moments. And I think it's just an absolutely perfect, like, play by Russell when he does that. I can't even explain it, John, but just, it's not, like, once again, it's not boisterous, it's not mean, it's not overly excited. It's just, hey man, like, we did it. Good game. But he does it all non-verbally.
I mean, it's like the glimmer in his eye simply of, yeah. Like, and that's why he doesn't need to gloat, because once he won, that was all he needed. He didn't need the trophy. He didn't need to walk out there and, be lifted up by his team or vice versa. There's no screaming or yelling. It was just that. It's very quietly elegant.
Mm-hmm. And also, I found a great article from The Ringer about how Gavin O'Connor is one of the great sports directors of our time. And, you watch the way back and the quiet moments of that. In Warrior, the end of the film is the two brothers walking out to the National. Like, it's a small moment between two brothers. Like, it's a big moment, but it's quite
ignoring
intimate.
All press.
Yeah, it's like very intimate. And the song, and like, I remember just my eyes welling up.
Oh,
dude.
And
then I'm getting goosebumps talking about it. And then in Miracle, Herb Brooks, he goes into the back. I mean, I'm getting welling up. He goes into the back and just, like, hunches down, and you have that wide shot of him just in the hallway celebrating. Like, just, he's not whooping it. Like, he's not going to go crazy in front of his team. But that moment where he just went off on his own, sat in the hallway, absorbed what happened. Like, that's why I really like Gavin O'Connor. Once again, like, this movie's the small moments of these films and the performances he gets. But yeah, when he goes off in that hallway, it's such a perfect moment.
Yeah, and that's another thing that, again, I feel like a lot of filmmakers would choose to capitalize on the easy win, is not just romanticizing his reaction or tears and close-ups or him having a montage flashback of when he didn't accomplish this 30 years earlier in his youth. It's one line. He's wanted this, he's needed this in his life ever since he didn't get it when he was on the team, kind of. And they just leave it there. There's no emotional hardship that we go through. We just understand, oh yeah, okay, that was really important to him. He's doing this now. This movie doesn't go out of its way to emotionally connect with every chance that it gets. It leaves it just with the exuberance of the team, the frustration of the team. It's almost always as if the team is the character, with little caveats, right? But it really focuses on their journey, even though I feel like most of the conflict is through the lens of Coach.
Absolutely. And I love that you keep talking about the team, because after this, professionals started playing. So you and I both remember the 90s. I'm going to switch over to Olympic basketball. But in the 90s, when the Dream Team went over, yeah, it was America, but you knew that Jordan was there. You knew Barkley was there. You knew Malone was there. Stockton was there. Like, you knew all the players. So it wasn't just, it was a team, but it was all the best on a team. With Miracle, you had a bunch of amateur guys coming out of college, coming out of Boston, coming out of Minnesota. I have a lot of family there. I don't know. My Minnesota came out weird, but it's a team. It's a team. So I like that you say, like, they're not singling out many members. You have the Coneheads, you have the different people coming together. And since they came from rival teams, they would fight. You settle that. But yeah, it's about the team. But I think that's what it was, though, right? Like, when you talk about Team USA beating Russia, you're like Team USA, because it was a team of amateurs that won. So I think it was very smart to just focus on the team itself. I also think it was smart to cast actual hockey players in the roles.
Yeah, I'm watching this, and I probably have only seen this movie. I probably saw it when it was new, once on HBO, once maybe 5 or 8 years ago, and now. And I mean, like, full, proper, all the way through watches. And I'm watching it this time, and I'm just like, these hockey scenes look great. And it's almost like when you're watching a fighting movie, and there's a big difference between when you're watching a Tony Jaa movie and when you're watching, I don't know, well, just some other action movie, a
Ryan
Van
Gosling.
Damme movie,
Yeah.
even, right? Even with Van Damme, there's almost a cut for every one or two techniques, right? Whereas in this, you see a whole lot happening in many cases, and in one shot, 2-3 passes, covering 30 to 50 feet each. It's more technical. And so I guess so that makes total sense that you're saying that. And again, you know what? These actors aren't getting good hard lenses on them independently. We're not seeing their teared up journeys. Again, some exceptions, right?
Yeah.
I play for the United States, hockey team, whatever. Right? But that I don't think that's why we don't see that, but it means that we don't need that.
Mm-hmm.
We need to believe them. And you know what else? You got real hockey players. Now they don't need to put themselves in the head of someone who dares to dream of something great. And that might not make them actors, but they might know a little more about these struggles with injuries or what it's like to lay there and
locker room
and be crying, laying there on an examination table, waiting to find out what the status is of your knee. We all see Friday Night Lights and Varsity Blues, but again, these things are dramatizing this as much as it can be. And it might be like reality. However, this movie isn't trying to tell that story. It's just letting you know that it happens.
Yeah.
And this is one pebble in a gravel road.
The only complaint that I heard about this move, I love that. Yeah, no, the only complaint I heard was from the players, and they said that Herb Brooks never attended their Christmas parties. He was not the guy that would attend a Christmas party. So that scene was the only scene that at the actual players, and they didn't complain about it. And they said they're like, I get why they did it, but it's not sensational, right? It's just a Christmas party. That's it. And then he just leaves. It's not. He had a beer.
He doesn't give a speech.
Yeah, exactly. He doesn't give a speech. And so I think no one really was bothered by that scene because they're not trying to make him Jolly Herb Brooks. They're trying to but it's also smart to have him there. You get the funny gag with the whistle and you get the funny gag with the whip. But yeah, it's a good bit. And they said Herb would never ever have shown up to a Christmas party with them. But it makes sense to a certain extent to have the coach be a little bit more accessible than just, I'm going to murder you guys with cardio until the Olympics. You can't have that. And I think it was also smart getting Kurt Russell. Kurt Russell talked about this as well, and he said that he loved, because Gavin O'Connor had not done many movies before this, and Dan Stoloff had not shot many films before this. And the reason that Kurt Russell jumped on is he loved, first and foremost, he loved the story, he loved Herb Brooks. His son was being born during the time, so he was able to, he said he watched it through the periphery. And also at the time, Wyatt was playing hockey. And he just learned that Gavin O'Connor was going to get actual athletes and the way he was going to shoot it. And also Kurt Russell said that he had played ball. He had played some professional sports. He had played sports for money. And so he felt like Kurt Russell said that he felt like he knew professional sports. And also, since he had been around new sports and had been an actor, he could be a good mentor for the non-actors on set. The first scene that he shot with those actors is when they're waiting outside for him on the bus, and they're talking about, why'd you bring this guy in? And he didn't really talk. I worked on a movie. Kurt Russell was on it. I never talked to him because I'm not that guy. I had a job to do. You don't go up and talk to them. But
was that Guardians?
Yeah,
2?
Guardians 2. But he was on the set all the time in costume, not caring, laughing big. He was there. A lot of people go to their trailers. He was just on set dressed as Ego, chilling, just chatting with Bautista and just walking around. And, yeah, I didn't say anything, but it's on this set, he stayed away from the actors. So that first scene, since he knew they were not actors, they knew that when they were like, oh crap, I'm acting with Kurt Russell as Herb Brooks, we're going to be intimidated. So that was the first scene they shot because he knew, they shot it in order. But they also knew if they shot that scene into it, they wouldn't be as scared of him. So they shot it when they were still scared of him, that scene. So like Kurt, I guess, was a great coach on set. He was still a little distant, but he warmed up eventually. And like he just has nothing but great things to say about this film. And man, that choked me up at the end when Herb Brooks died. Like I read about him. He got into a car accident, wasn't wearing a seatbelt, and he died.
He didn't get to see the movie, right?
Did you read about his career?
No, I did not.
So like he coached the Minnesota he coached a college team to 3 national championships in 73, 74, 75, 76, and then 78, 79. And then he went to the NHL. So he was at the Rangers and he lost in the division finals. Then he was with the Rangers for 4 years and he lost in the division finals twice and once in the division semifinals. Then he went to Minnesota. He missed the playoffs there, but then he went to New Jersey and he lost in division semifinals. And then in Pittsburgh, he lost in the conference semifinals, but he also coached he coached the French Olympics men's team. He coached the 2002 men's team, American men's team, to a silver medal. And then he was in Utica. He was with the Swiss. And then he ended his overall record with, let's see, I think he ended up, oh wow. Yeah, he went 219 and 222 in the NHL. And then he went 167 and 97 with his college career. So the guy, he's in the Hall of Fame of hockey. Like he's in every Hall of Fame you could imagine. But everything I've heard about it, like the Swiss said that his practice techniques were too hard. So everything I've heard about him is he was a hard ass.
Yeah.
So it was fun reading about him. And also I guess he has some pretty good quotes. He said, you're playing worse and worse every day. And right now you're playing like it's next month.
Oh, that's rough.
And he said, you look like you have a 5-pound fart on your head. He said that. And he also said the classic, you look like a monkey trying to hump a football. But yeah, he's like, if you lose this game, he'll take it to your grave. Like, let's be idealistic, but let's also be practical. Like, the legs feed the wolf, and again. So it's like, we walked up to the tiger, looked him straight in his eye, and spat in it. Like, he had so many quotes, this guy. So he was a straight up character.
That one's just like a music line cliche, though.
But yeah, reading about him, it was quite the journey learning about him. And I kind of like that Kurt Russell is the actor to play this, right? Because he doesn't have the Oscar. He's well known. He's been acting since the 60s or late 50s. He's been around forever. No, probably 60s, yeah. And like so he's a well-known guy. Herb Brooks never won in the NHL. He did win a gold medal there. He won in college. So it's like he was never the ultimate coach on the planet, but he was still highly regarded. And I feel like that's kind of Kurt Russell in a nutshell. Like he's not going to win an Oscar.
Oh, but Herb won. You said 6 college national championships in like 7 or 8 years.
Yeah,
before this movie's events.
And I guess it's different, but I just kind of like that. Like this is a guy who never went to a team and led a dynasty for 10 years. Like he bounced around between the Swiss and Utica and Minnesota and the French. Like for some reason, this guy who won the gold for America didn't coach for them the next, the 4 years later. So I don't know. I like that Russell plays Herb Brooks. And this is another thing I've enjoyed, John. Like we've been talking about Russell since the beginning, Kurt Russell, and this is the first film. This is a completely different performance from 3,000 Miles to Graceland, from Dark Blue, the last 2 that we've talked about. So this dude has range. Like where do you feel like this performance falls in his filmography?
Oh, good Lord. I just remember jotting down notes like ballsy yet practical, bold yet calm. Where does this range? This might be the one extreme.
Yeah.
Where you have something like Captain Ron on the other end. These really might be his 2 extremes.
Yeah.
Because top of my head, I mean, even when you think of something like Breakdown, regardless of the drama thrill aspect of it, that's nothing range wise to this for me. Because being pissed off, being highly emotional, I think that's a lot harder than being calm while conveying fear, frustration, focus, desire, need. I don't know. I'm calling this the extreme.
I just threw this on you. Yeah. And it's very controlled. You know, I love that scene with Patricia Clarkson where he's like, well, you go deal with it. And I like later on, I know she's a classic movie wife, but I think they give her more to do, like with that scene where he's like, hey, my bad. Like, I didn't tell you. That was a really bad look. And then I like what he says. They're like, listen, can you be here for me? This is something I've always wanted. This is going to absorb my life. And I should have told you this. Like, but that's the conversation you never get in a sports movie between a husband and wife, I think, where
I think you have more of a throwdown fight first.
Yeah.
This is another, what I'll call an air quotes opportunity that was tactfully avoided in this movie to make it again more about the team. Although yes, through the lens of the coach, the coach's hardships create hardship in training for the team, right? So we had to see that.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I agree. It was all very fair.
Yeah.
As well, because when you take these, again, opportunities, I'm calling them, and you show these breakdown, knockdown fights, there tends to be more of a very distinct, not only is this person wrong, but this person is an offender, and this other person is in the right who is a victim. And in this case, it's just like, yeah, my emotions got away from me. Like I told you that. No, you didn't tell me that. It's, it's like, oh, well, I think you knew that was coming. She's like, yeah, I did. Mm-hmm. Everything was very fair. There weren't winners or losers. No one was licking their wounds. No one had to keep apologizing after the conversation. How about that?
Yeah.
So again, and in reality, it might have been much more extreme, but this was delivered very tactfully, plainly.
That's a great point, because that's not the movie. I think they needed to establish his home life, but that's not the movie. So you can't have a giant throwdown fight and then have this movie, because that's not it. But I just love how they dealt with that. It's very, like you said, there's no winners or losers. They both kind of went, yeah, I got you. Like, I got your back. Like, we'll do this.
Well, and movies like this would almost always show the father coach actively being
a bad dad,
absent from the kids.
Yeah.
And the kids are like absent from they are mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's a brief scene on an ice skating rink where you see his little daughter for a moment, and it's not a scene of conflict to his duties, if you will, necessarily, even if his head's somewhere else. So yeah, again, these are not things that are capitalized upon. Mm-hmm. And they're easy to do that. Those are the typical things. And Oscar-winning movies do that,
yeah,
right? Because they do it, and they do a great job of it, and you just feel the pain. But again, this movie is to screenwriting and directing what this coach was to historical coaching. He wasn't picking the best players. He was picking the right ones. They're the most sensational. They're the best scenes. And then there's what actually tells the best story.
Yeah.
And that's what we got. This movie reminds me a lot of Moneyball for that reason. A lot of the tact that he chose was very similar. We're not picking the person with the most RBIs, the most stolen bases, and the most home runs. We're picking, or even the best, the most number of strikeouts if you're a pitcher. We're picking the people who just get on base the most, and we're picking the pitchers who get people on base the least. Period. And then afterwards, he's going to make them work together, which is a little different than this. But again, he's not picking the players which we conventionally call the best. He even said, I picked every single one of those players for a very specific reason. And when we see the three cone heads, right, as they call them, that's not really so much highlighting those characters, but highlighting that unit of players that learned to find good synthesis together in the way that he predicted that they would when he put them together. And that's, there was nothing, no beautiful extrapolation or emotion from those players. It was very matter of fact. No, like I pass it and he just seems to, I just find the passes and he seems to find the puck.
Yeah, I love that line.
Right.
Yeah,
He just always seems to be where I need him to be. And I don't know. And they're just like, I don't know. And then that's it. It's very plain and humanized. That's another thing. I mean, humanized. It's like, it takes away, again, things like Moneyball, a lot of great sports movies. You don't need to know the sport to see that they're just finding a great connection.
Yeah.
And I didn't need Kurt Russell then to look at the screen and say, see, I told you that this player was really good at this and that player was really good at that. And even though neither of them are the best, right?
Mm-hmm. And you know what I love too, John? Remember, there's so many movies where the coaches just make the kids run. And they're like, enough. But this one, he's like, listen, we're going up the best team in the world. We are going up against the Russians, who have owned this competition for 20 years. They're going to own it for another 10 years after this. They've beaten the NHL All-Stars. They are the best. So we're not going to beat them by like on talent alone. We're not going to do this. Like we're going to have to become faster than them in the third period or third quarter. We're going to have to be as fast as them. We're going to have to bull them. We can't back down from them. We just need to keep coming at them like waves and waves every 30 seconds, just waves and waves and waves. So when you see the cardio, when you see the team talking about the girls, the Swiss girls and that kind of stuff, and you know why he's making them skate so hard, because why do all this and then just lose 6-1 to the Russians and win a silver? Like, he's doing this to win. And so when he's going again, there is some manufactured drama there with Noah Emmerich and blowing the whistle. But at the end, the guy's like, hey, I play for Team USA. And after that, I think there's 2 times when he does that. When he asks people where they're from, and then the one guy makes a joke like, I'm from wherever,
Doesn't get the snot kicked out of me, basically.
And then Kurt Russell liked that. Herb Brooks liked that because that was a good team building moment. So he's like, okay, we're done. And then he said, okay, we're done when he said, I play for Team USA. And so I think by using all that cardio, by like making them fast, by making them work hard, that's how they beat the Russians, right? Like he just put them through it. And I mean, that's smart. And once again, though, that scene there is a little drama with Noah Emmerich where he doesn't want to blow the whistle, but they could have played that a lot worse. And I'm glad they didn't. And, I love that scene too with the Coneheads when they're like, yeah, we just sort of feel it. Cause I think that does happen, man. Like, I don't know. This is really random, but when I played soccer in Korea, there was a guy named Mateo, and he did the Face-Off episode of Movie Sims Flicks, and he's a drummer and just crushing it in Korea right now. But whenever we played on the left side, I just felt comfortable with him. It's weird. Like, I liked everybody on the team. We all got along, but sometimes you just got that synthesis with it. And so when you hear the three, he's like, I'm going to put you two together, and you're like, oh yeah, that's cool. And they don't become the Bash Brothers. They don't become the brothers from Slapshot. You barely hear from them anymore, but you don't need it. And also too, this movie was really storyboarded, and they watched the final game, not the final game. It wasn't even the gold medal game, but they watched the game between the Soviet Union and the U.S., and they pulled about 200 plays they wanted to show for the movie. And then they made all the players watch the tape and then recreate that, and that's how they shot it. And like
that's
you said,
cool.
Yeah, like 2-3 takes, but 2-3 passes. And like, I guess there was a funny story where the guy during the game, he's supposed to score a goal. I think it was one of the Russian players, and he just misses a shot on goal, but he missed it on purpose. And Gavin's like, you look like you missed it on purpose. Try to make it. And then the Russian guy scored about 5 goals in a row on the goalie. And then he got mad at the guy playing the Russian guy and was like, stop scoring goals. And then he got mad at the keeper. He's like, you need to block that. So he's like, don't miss on purpose. And then he's like, stop being so good. So I kind of love that. Like, that's what they were going for. And once again, I'm just amazed because, there's a few movies we talked about, John, based on true stories that I really adore. And one of those is Ford vs. Ferrari. The other is Rush. I think those movies are a racing series that we did. They're beautiful. Like, I think Daniel Bruhl should have won the Oscar. I think Ford vs. Ferrari is a beautiful movie, but they definitely kind of pumped up some of the emotion in it. Like, they have the speeches but but I still think they fit along nicely with, I think Rush more so fits in nicely with Miracle, but they're three really good movies that just did it really well. Like, I think, and they were all successful, and they all found elements of kind of making a movie that, I would say this is only like PG movie. This is probably the safest one to watch, but I think they all came true story. They tackled the true stories that in ways that didn't feel overly cheesy or cornball-y or dramatic. And it makes me happy. I don't know, but this one, John, this one's the most, I mean, there's no Chris Hemsworth fooling around with 40 women in Rush. You know, there's no big speeches. And in Ford v Ferrari, there's no Matt Damon acting his face off, Christian Bale acting their faces off. This is just more of a nice movie, Miracle. And it did well, which makes me happy. I keep saying that, but these movies like these are rare, John. Like, I don't see a movie like this succeeding nowadays. Do you?
Boy, like nowadays, like really today, post-COVID movie theater environment, no, this by design would have to go straight to streaming.
Mm-hmm.
But or you'd have to cut the budget so far down, but going straight to streaming would do that as well, right? So, and then you wouldn't be able to shoot as much film. So your idea of not having to pay as much money for actors, and having hockey players kind of goes to crap because now your stunts and or your all that filming isn't as affordable. I don't know. You'd know better the logistical issues, but yeah, you're right. I don't think this works. I don't think this can be executed as elegantly as it should have been. That's the best way to put it.
We had a good run of sports tales though in the 2000s with Disney when they did Rookie, Remember the Titans,
I love Rookie,
Miracle. Yeah, Rookie's great. Like they had a run of very successful sports movies. So I think the only way this gets made again is if we get another similar run. Like Friday Night Lights came out this year. So like there was like a good run of sports movies that did well and were actually really like the Rookie.
But Friday Night Lights was intense.
Yeah, beautiful. But like the Rookie, right? That movie was very light and very friendly and it's a delight, and it made a lot of money and critics loved it. And then you have Remember the Titans. That was a blockbuster smash.
Mm-hmm.
So I think they're like, okay, well, we've told all these true stories, so I guess we should do another one. But it still did. Yeah, so I think the only way we could do this is if we get another run from like a Disney.
Yeah, even then I think it would be tough.
Yeah, like you said, like they shot so much film, they don't have like a huge cast. I mean, yeah, I don't see them giving that much money. They did tryouts for 2,000 people to get the right people on this film. So, and like, you know what I like too is that Kenneth Mitchell, who plays Cox, the guy who gets kicked off the team when 21 becomes 20, he tried out for another role, but Gavin O'Connor liked him so much that he gave him the Cox role and he rewrote it to include him in a lot of scenes so that when he gets dropped at the end, it hurts. And that scene hurts, man. That, like, and the way Russell plays it, he's not looking forward to it. The way that he plays it, like, he doesn't act out or get angry. Like, he knows Herb doesn't like this. This is a unicorn, isn't it? I can't think of many movies that are like this, that avoid maybe Way Back, I think. But that's more of a man who's dealing with alcohol addiction.
Again,
and loss.
I come back to Moneyball. I do come back to Moneyball. There are different flavors, though, of the same variety.
The Scouts. Remember when he's talking about the Scouts? He's like, you want David Justice? You want a guy who's never played first base? Like, he gets on base. He gets on base. He gets on base. And again, and again, and again. So, you keep talking about Moneyball, John. Whenever I watch Moneyball, I just go, I love this movie. And,
it's an amazing movie. Yeah. I love that movie.
Right? And I don't think about it much, but whenever it's on, I'm like, this movie hits on all cylinders. I've had to watch it twice, so I had to do a Chris thing, so I watched it for that. And then I'm doing a Brad Pitt video, so I watched it again. And everyone's good in it. Everyone, even the Scouts. Like, you like all the Scouts. Mm-hmm. And all the yeah, man. Don't get me started on. Yeah, because that one, he listens to the games. Like, most of it's him just, like, walking around listening.
While he's working out and he has to be away from it, right?
Yeah.
It's an interesting spent. And of course, he's someone else who, not quite the same story. He was a pro ball player and he didn't last very long, and then he became a coach. But he understands players, though. I think most people in that position. Well, is that fair? Do most general managers come from playing pro in their sport? Maybe that's a no. Coaches more likely.
Yeah. I mean, most soccer coaches, right? Like Pep Guardiola,
right?
Arteta.
But general managers, I don't know. I just don't have the knowledge to say that.
The two United States, so the U.S. women's national team general manager, she just resigned. She was a former player. And Brian McBride was the general manager of the men's team. He resigned. And they were both former players. But I think general managers got to be
very business savvy.
Yeah, exactly. Like the deals. Like you can't, like you almost got to be more cutthroat than a player could ever be because you know the other players. That's a good question, John.
Well, that was the Brad Pitt thing too, is that he doesn't want to be close to the players because he's the one who's got to cut them, and it's got to be a business decision. I love that movie. It's such a good movie. This is like the Moneyball of hockey, it's the Moneyball of hockey, and it's the Rocky IV of Kurt Russell movies.
Hey, so how about this, John? Well, let's do something real quick. Let's do a movies based on. Oh, one thing. You know how when Everybody Wants Some, there's that amazing dance scene?
Dude, I thought of that movie a lot while watching this, by the way.
There's
the bright-eyed, bushy-tailedness of the players.
There's an amazing dance scene in that movie. They had a disco dancing scene in this film that got cut. But I would love to see the disco dancing scene in this movie.
The dancing scene that you just mentioned from Everyone Wants Some, that is my favorite. Actually, it's more the opening 10 seconds. Just seeing how 3 different guys go out on the dance floor with their 3 respective dates. Mm-hmm. Those 10 seconds are probably my favorite 10 seconds of that movie. And the whole scene is probably still my favorite scene, but those 10 seconds.
And we have a Russell in that movie too.
Yep, Wyatt Russell playing a great character.
So let's do this, John. Let's do movies based on or inspired by a true story. And then while you're thinking of that, while you're doing some researching, because I don't want to put you on the spot, I'm gonna drop 2 things on you. So I think this movie, we've talked about Kurt Russell's sleeveless shirts a lot, but I think I've also skipped the legendary Kurt Russell suit coat performance, and I think these are the 5 I'm gonna give, and I'm gonna add a tux in there. Number 1, it's just got to be Miracle, the checkered suit that he has, like, and the turtlenecks, like. He wears these suits. They don't wear him.
I also like when he reverses it for the final game where he has the khaki colored jacket, but then he has the brown and yellow plaid pants.
Yeah. With like they're pretty wide at the ankles too, which I love. My number 2 is got to be Executive Decision. It's more of a tuxedo coat, but it's still on the entire movie and it just looks good. Number 3 is when he goes when he's in disguise in Big Trouble in Little China, when he's just a complete idiot, and he thinks he's like, I just love his disguise in Big Trouble in Little China. Number 4, it's gonna be Used Cars. Like he has a great checkered suit, but I just love how short his tie is. It just looks horrible. And number 5, these are all movies we talked about, and you can listen to them on the movies from the flicks. Is Tequila Sunrise, because that's Pat Riley's slick NBA head basketball coach, Kurt Russell. So we have 5 different suits. We have a coach, an idiot, a kind of rich analyst, white collar guy, a slick detective, and a shady used car salesman, all with suit coats. So I'm gonna say those are my favorite. And then I reached out on Movies, Films, and Flicks, and I wanted to know people's favorite Kurt Russell film. I just was like, you know what? I want to know. And so I need some help. What is your favorite Kurt Russell film or performance? And I got a lot of answers, and I'm just going to read them out here while you're thinking. So Jack Austin said Tombstone as basic bitch as that is to say. And I was like, that's not basic at all. Like, I love that performance. Nathan LaHaye said my wife would say Stargate. I would say Sky High. Zanandi said Sky High. Cody Tiger, who we know well. She said, I would like to add Bone Tomahawk, Backdraft, Death Proof, and Captain Ron. Sheila Cross said Captain Ron. Aaron Neuwirth said putting Carpenter aside because obviously Breakdown. Neil Mitchell, he said Stargate or Tombstone for me. Robin Sparkles said because Escape from New York was already mentioned, I'll pick Death Proof or The Hateful Eight. Lisa Leahy said Overboard. Eric Vanderham, Big Trouble in Little China, followed by Overboard. Gary Bowsdower, The Thing, and Escape from New York. William Underwood said Big Trouble in Little China. Tony Briley said Big Trouble in Little China, but used cars, he was quite something. M-Act Cat says Tango and Cash. Bradley Gerber said Escape from New York. Andy Golding loves The Thing, but he said he puts Tombstone and The Fox and the Hound. Tucker Massey says Big Trouble in Little China. Uncle Ron, Breakdown, Dark Blue, Hateful Eight. People love Kurt Russell, John. Just giving you a heads up. And Kieran Sweeney, friend of the pod, he said Big Trouble in Little China. So we got a lot of comments here. People love the Russ.
I mean, especially if you're at least in your, let's call it at least like your mid 30s, he had to have influenced your movie fare growing up. Even though most of his bigger stuff was earlier or coming out, even when these people were younger, if you're, say 34 years old today, but still, like, you know that your parents loved Tombstone, even if you were born in 1993, know it, like, and you sat through it probably.
Yeah. You've watched Tombstone with your dad.
Right.
So, what's your first pick, John, for our movies based on a true story?
Movies based on a true story. Okay, well, I'm gonna go Pain and Gain.
Oh, what a pick! Dwayne Johnson's best performance.
The movie that literally reminds you 4 times with captions that this is still based on a true story, or yes, this actually happened.
Oh, I love that. That's so good. That's a great pick. This is tough. I'm going to say, I said Ford vs. Ferrari already. I know that's based on a true story. Bloodsport.
Based on what is probably an outstanding lie about a true story. That's a good pick.
That's why I had to do it, because everyone's like, this didn't happen. So yeah, Bloodsport.
All right, okay. All right. You're playing dirty, I see. I'm going to go Goodfellas.
Oh, man. Yeah. Can't beat that. I'm going to pick a movie called $1 Million Arm. It's a Disney sport film, but I got to have it. I have some of my favorite stories working on that movie. I worked as a first team PA, John, and I got to hang out with Bill Paxton on set, and he hated my hat, and we just ran around set, and he made sandwiches and crafty, and he was just like the chillest dude you could ever meet. And so whenever he showed up, you get him through hair, makeup, wardrobe, get him through sound, like just hang out, all the actors were cool on that set, but just hanging out with Bill Paxton and be like, Mark, I hate that hat. Like, he hated my hat because I had a big hole in it and it was held together by paper clips. And it's just one of my best. So whenever I see $1 Million Arm, I just smile, and it makes me. And also, John Hamm was like, "Who's going to win the national championship this year?" And I'm like, "I don't know, probably Florida State." And they did, and I just pulled it out of my butt because I just love Florida State. So yeah, that's a good memory. So yeah, that's my second pick. What's your third?
I'm going to go The Big Short.
Oh yeah. Oh, you love The Big Short.
I love The Big Short so much. I do.
You're a big shorter.
I have a lot of things written down right now. I was scrambling writing.
Brad Pitt. I'm going to take Moneyball.
Okay, that was on my list, but yeah, I felt like I wouldn't have felt badly for not picking it because it got a good talking to. Okay, I mentioned Tombstone earlier, but I'm not going to pick it right now just because I mentioned it and how kids were influenced by it, undoubtedly. I'm going to say A League of Their Own.
Oh, that's a really good one. I like that. That's such a good movie. Gina Davis is just the best, John. She needs more love. I think she's great. Your Pain and Gain pick is kind of making me jealous a little bit. I love it. I'm going to take a movie called Memories of Murder. It's a Korean film. Incredible movie based on a serial killer out there in South Korea. But it's great. Bong Joon-ho directed it. Oscar winner.
Who also directed
Parasite. Yeah, and it's the ensemble staging in it is beautiful, and the use of color. It's just a glorious movie. So I'm going to take that one.
Okay. Part of me, I do love Wolf of Wall Street, but I got to go with my other clutch favorite, Catch Me If You Can.
Oh yeah. Oh, John, your job. I like this. You're dropping some of your favorites on here.
Well, it's funny as I'm jotting these down. How many of my favorite non-horror, non-sci-fi movies are based on true stories?
Yeah. I guess I'll finish this up with Unstoppable. I just love Unstoppable. That's a
Oh,
movie.
right.
That's a movie like Tony Scott, Denzel, Chris Pine, Rosario Dawson. The entire cast is just so stacked. But whenever that movie's on, it moneyballs me, and I just, I just like, oh, hey, Unstoppable. Well, I'm just gonna leave this right here. It just always pulls me in, and I love the way that Tony Scott shoots it. You know, listen, I love the Denzel Tony Scott combo, so I love it. All right, so you got Pain and Gain, Goodfellas, Big Short, League of Their Own, Catch Me If You Can. I have $1 Million Arm, Moneyball, Bloodsport, Memories of Murder, and Unstoppable. John, what?
I love that you have Bloodsport, and I really like that you took Moneyball because it freed it up for me. That needed to be picked.
I almost went Ford v Ferrari, but I feel like Moneyball and Ford v Ferrari take up the same world for me, so I don't want to have two of those. But I absolutely love those. But yeah, Moneyball, what a movie. It kind of, you know, making a movie like Miracle or Moneyball, I think is almost like, that's got to be hard in the editing room. Because, like, especially just, you're in office rooms. Like, you know, the shots in Miracle aren't really that long, and they're so intimate, and the way you have to cut it. Like, the editors need a lot of props, I think, for this. But, no, I think this was good. I think we talked about Miracle, did a great job. What Kurt Russell movie we doing next? We have Rocky IV coming out after this episode. And what's our next Dolph episode? Did we figure that out?
I think
Scorpion?
we were threatening Red Scorpion.
Oh, yeah, there we go. So we're sold on that. What's our next Curdy Russ?
Next Curdy Russ. Okay, well, what haven't we done? We haven't done the Poseidon Adventure.
We have. That one hurts my soul. I don't know.
I'm
if
sorry.
I can
I mean Poseidon.
Oh yeah. I don't know if I can do that yet. We're gonna have to eventually. I mean, if you want to knock it out, I guess we can.
What else do we have? I don't think that we should count. Even though I don't think we should count Fast and Furious movies.
No, like not even, or like Once Upon a Time in America or Hollywood.
Right.
Like we could count Hateful Eight, but I don't think we should count a side role. I mean, we have.
Yeah, Hateful Eight, he's a major, right?
We have.
Oh, Backdraft, dude, Backdraft.
All right,
I feel
there it
like
is.
you know what's funny is that in my head we already talked about Backdraft because we have talked about the intensity of some of those scenes many times before. That in my head we've already done a Kurt Russell episode on Backdraft.
All right,
let's do Backdraft.
All right, Backdraft it is.
Oh, that's such a good movie. That's one of those movies where I was talking about like when you're younger and your parents are watching it. So the Backdraft is like what, 91, 2-ish. And so I was 10, 11 when that came out. So when my uncle got on Columbia House Video, probably 2 years later, almost for it to be on Columbia House, right? I'm like 13 and I'm just hearing my uncle and my older cousin talk about like how intense this movie is. And you're young and it's serious and it's more about the relationships, you know, with the firefighters. Mm-hmm. And you're just like, yeah, whatever. It seems like a boring adult movie, you know, and then you get older. It just beats you. It opens your ribcage and beats your heart up with a baseball bat. Like,
and dude, the cast, right? Kurt Russell, Donald Sutherland, De Niro, Scott Glenn, Jennifer Jason Leigh, like William Baldwin. I mean, just the stacked group of actors in this movie. It's just loaded. Yeah, what a good picture. I like it. I think we're set. And we got
Red
JT
Scorpion
Walsh.
and Backdraft. What a pair.
Hey, we got JT Walsh back too from Breakdown. He's in Backdraft as well. Yeah. So we got to do the JT Curdy Russ combo.
That's right.
But hey, John, where can people find you, man? Also, hey, John, I want to say a huge shout out to the Last Action Heroes because they had some incredibly kind words about our Predator episode.
Oh.
And I don't know if you saw it, but they're like, kudos to you guys for taking a movie that's basically been talked about by everybody and somehow finding a way to making it fresh. And then they also loved your story about mosquitoes. And remember when we talked about that, John? I'm like, this movie's been covered every single way. Let's try to like cover this another way. And they actually unsolicited were like, hey guys, like you did exactly like that. And that just made me so happy because that's like my goal, man. Like Predator's been covered every which way. And we ended up talking about giraffes, t-shirts, like that was a fun conversation, man, and I'm really happy that they appreciated that. So thank you to the Last Action Heroes for calling that out.
Well, that's really cool. That's really cool. Do you know any episode of theirs that I should turn to if I'm going to do a first listen that you're familiar with?
Oh my gosh! Oh man, they have so many funny ones. No, so Last Action Heroes, it's 4 friends. They get together and they rate action heroes. And they like have a leaderboard. What episode should they do? They just had a really, they had a really funny Broken Arrow one. If you've never listened to the Broken Arrow, it's their most recent one.
And you love Broken Arrow.
Yeah, and like it's fun, but they talk about how Slater has like just a cheeky bastard smile on him. That's pretty great.
That's just genetic, though.
Yeah, their Cutthroat Island one, that one gets really loose.
Ooh, I love that movie. Okay, that's where I should start.
I don't know if you're gonna want that one because a couple of the guys really hated it, and they got in like a big argument in that episode.
No, but I understand that movie was not historically very well received, but I don't care. I like it. It's okay. I can take the criticism.
That one's actually a lot of fun. Their Tremors one is fun, but yeah, I think Broken Arrow, Cutthroat Island, because that Cutthroat Island one gets loose. But yeah, I would say those are the ones to listen to. Yeah.
All right.
So
Last Action Heroes.
They're on Twitter. Yeah, they gave us a nice compliment. Remember when I wrote that? I was like, nice compliment for like that's what we wanted. And no, that was cool. So yeah, listen to them. They're a cool podcast. I appreciate that from them. But John, where can people find you?
Well, if you Google John's Horror Corner, you're gonna find me everywhere that you probably could find me. You'd find that it looks like I have my own website, but it's actually a column at the top right. On Google, it'll look like I have my own website. But it's a column on the top right of movies, films, and flicks for John's Horror Corner, and John's Horror Corner at Twitter, and John's Horror Corner at Instagram. I'm on Threads. I haven't figured out Threads, but I'm also in my 40s, so I feel like I have an epigenetic disadvantage to figure out new social media. But every now and then I even put something on Threads now under John's Horror Corner. Yeah,
I'm on Blue Sky, and I don't really know how to use Blue Sky.
I never even heard of that.
It's Twitter, but like, John, we're so busy, man. Like, it's hard. I don't know if I could juggle 5 social accounts. Like, I'm so deep into the ones we're in now.
I've still never even talked to Tick.
Yeah, no. That's huge.
I've picked ticks off my rhymes with talk from my work in South America, but I've never talked or ticked or tick-tocked. I don't really know the word.
You never talked the tick or tick the talked.
I never tweaked.
Yeah.
You will not find me on TikTok. If you look for John's Horror Corner, I can tell you that right now.
Oh man, you should do your just pairings of movies and beers.
Right. Just do that on TikTok?
Yeah. And then chug a beer and then just burp. That's every single episode. No, you should explain the plot of the movie. No, you don't want to be doing deadlifts. Explain the plot of a movie while doing leg curls. Just sitting down, and you get 30 seconds to explain a horror movie while you do your 10 reps. What?
So as you get to the more interesting details, it's more belabored to say.
Yeah,
as you're later in the set.
Just don't do deadlift plot explanations because you need all your focus on that.
Right.
But yeah, there we go. We just created a star account here. Like you explaining Puppet Master 6 while doing leg curls.
Oh dear.
Hey man, well thank you for joining me. This is awesome.
Sure.
All right, so listen to this episode, and next we have Rocky 4 coming out, and then I'm sure we'll talk about Frailty and probably Deadstream, and then we're gonna have Backdraft and Red Scorpion.
Just clearly we have a type.
Yeah, exactly. All right, man. Well, thank you for joining me.
All right.
All right. So for me, Mark Hoffmeyer, for John Leavengood, this is Movies, Films, and Flicks. We'll see you next week.